Allah will hold you accountable for. Wallahu a'lam.
I think you said that there is nothing to stop a brother and sister marrying but still living with their own parents, i.e. not living together. Many parents don't like this idea and would say you aren't being public about your marriage. Is this a fair point?
No, I don't think so. The question is that some parents wouldn't accept their brother and sister getting married and then living separately in their own parents' home. There's nothing wrong with that. The key thing is that the marriage is made public. What is not allowed is secret marriages. Like some people, they'll say, we'll secretly get married, because our parents don't agree, it's okay for us to have a relationship. Secret marriages are not permissible. One of the purposes of the walima, the marriage feast, is that it's so that marriage is known and made public. So the people know that you are husband and wife. So in whatever form it's achieved, and of course the two witnesses that are there for the nikah, they serve that. So they can attest and say, yes, these two got married and we witnessed it. So as long as you've done that, alhamdulillah, no matter what people say, you don't have to worry about it. So it doesn't matter. So you get married, you have the witnesses, you live separately if you want to, and there's no problem with that, inshallah.
Obviously we live in times of difficulty and turbulence, and people try to find different ways of getting married. Sometimes you put forward this concept of temporary marriage in Islam. What is the Islamic stance in regards to this issue of temporary marriage?
Okay. A very, very good question. Temporary marriage is prohibited. It's haram. It's haram for Muslims. It was permitted in a certain time in Islamic history for a specific reason, and then it was prohibited. And it's not permissible ever again. It is haram. The only people who accept temporary marriage, or what's known as mut'ah, is the Shia. It is a Shia practice. It has nothing to do with if you like, Sunnis, or those who follow the Qur'an and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So temporary marriages today really are not acceptable, are not permissible. So if somebody goes into a marriage with the intention that they're going to divorce, then that marriage is not valid. So temporary marriages, brothers and sisters, it's absolutely haram, and really today is, some use it, is nothing less than kind of a form of, if you want, I don't like to use the word like form of prostitution, really. So people marry, for an hour or so, whatever, fulfill their shahwa and then get divorced. This is not marriage. So it's absolutely haram, and if somebody comes to you mentioning this, then you know where they're coming from. There's nothing to do with Islam that we follow. Wallahu a'lam.
What do you think about matrimonial service offered on the internet, where both other sisters and brothers are not right?
Okay. Yes, a good question. I want to touch on that in terms of when we're looking, and sometimes, people turn to different sources of finding, and, especially when your kind of social network is limited and your family aren't so helpful, where do you turn to? So today, brothers and sisters are kind of sometimes forced to turn to kind of desperate means sometimes. Internet matrimonial services really have to be careful about. You really have to be careful about, because sometimes you don't know the information that's been provided, how accurate or how correct it is, and how genuine some of these people are who are actually looking. And I think really you put yourself in a very difficult position when you put your profile online for anyone to see, and sometimes even worse when some people put their pictures online as well. Anyone in the world can come and access and see you, and really it opens the door to a lot of fitna. It opens the door to a lot of harm, and it's not the ideal. In fact, it's not a very good way to go forward. So really, it's not a very good way to look for marriage. You can use traditional marriage services, if you are in that situation, but online does create certain problems, I think, and really try to look for other alternative ways, inshallah. And as I said, the best form is through personal contact, through brothers and sisters who are married. And it's their duty really, don't feel embarrassed or that you're burdening them. It's their duty to help you. You have a right as a Muslim for other Muslims to help you. So you can go and in fact demand, brother, sister, help me. That's your right. And we should help each other in this. So because really we don't do this, and that's why we find a lot of this, and a lot of these websites, are really there for commercial purpose, not really to help individuals. You pay and they just give you a list of people, and you just kind of email and find out. So it's really not good. And also other methods like these speed intros, which have in recent years have taken off, and lots of them are happening. I would really warn people from taking part in this. From what I've seen and what I've heard, what takes place really, it's Allahu Alam how Islamic it is. When somebody comes along, you meet 5, 6 different people around a table, ask yourself how Islamic, how acceptable that kind of introduction is. So brothers and sisters, if you feel that don't get to a point of desperation that you need to go to these methods. So ask Allah's help, ask the people around you, and inshallah be patient. Be patient. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you. Be certain of that. So don't turn to a desperate means, because sometimes by doing so, you may find a person who's not really the best person for you. Wallahu a'lam. Yes.
Just one point of matter again. Obviously, you mentioned that sister has a right to ask for as much as she wants. I'm not sure that it isn't necessary for a sister to ask for a very high amount, but she sees that she will be ended up with this man for the rest of her life, providing for her for the rest of her life.
Is it reasonable, you're asking? No, I don't think it's reasonable for a woman to ask a high mahar. Because ultimately, if you ask her for a high mahar, you are, first of all, you are making it hard for yourself, for people to come forward. And also, if someone has come forward and you put in the amount of a high mahar, it may sometimes, create some ill feeling in the brother, thinking, she's asking so much from me. And he goes into a marriage in that kind of situation. But obviously, if he's accepted in the first place, then really he shouldn't have that. But, as human beings, we can't sometimes help feeling the way we do. So, ideally, sisters, you don't ask for a big mahar. I don't know what is reasonable, but £500, £1,000 is okay, I suppose. I've heard people marrying for much less than that. Sometimes I know some brothers have their mahar was like to take the sister on Hajj. So these kind of things, inshallah, is totally down to you. If you want a high mahar, then it's up to you, but you may have to wait a long time to find the right brother. Wallahu a'lam.
If a wife refuses to allow her husband to get married again, can he still get married? And also, can the wife put a condition before getting married to stop the husband from marrying another one?
Okay. Sisters, don't worry about this, right? Because seriously, most brothers, I was saying most, I would probably say, brothers living in this society not in a position to marry a second time, right? Even if they wanted to. Because, as I said, it's hard enough getting married once, providing for the first wife. It's very difficult, unless his brother is very rich, that to marry a second time. So don't, worry about this. Now, from a fiqh point of view, if a woman stipulates that a husband does not marry a second time, some scholars say that this condition is not valid. Others say that the condition is valid and the man has to go by that. And if he breaks it, then the woman has the right of divorce. So what I would say, if a sister does stipulate this condition, and the brother accepts, then obviously he should he should fulfill this condition. If you accept it, you should fulfill this condition. But nevertheless, sisters, it's not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it halal for a Muslim man to marry more than once. And really, think about some of the reason, the real reason, the wisdom, Allah knows best. But we can only try and kind of get a sense of why Allah has allowed this. And you only understand this if you look at the wider society around us today. Look at Western society. Man can sleep around, have as many partners as one. They don't have a problem with this. That as soon as we say a man can marry 4 wives, it's like, it's subhanAllah, it's like the end of the world for them. So what's the difference? Why is it wrong for a man to marry 4 wives and provide for her, look after them, make sure they get their rights? What's wrong with that when it's not wrong for a man to sleep around and have as many women as he wants? It's so we need to kind of examine how we judge situations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created man with a certain nature. And man's sexual desires, let's be kind of frank about this. Man's sexual desires are different from the desires of a woman. And sometimes a man may be not happy with the one wife in that sense, and he needs to marry again. So what would you prefer? That he divorces you and he leaves you, or that he marries again, but at the same time carries on providing and supporting you and maintaining you, but at the same time has another wife as well? What do you honestly think is the more just solution? This is something that sisters, think about. And today's society, really, many sisters, divorced sisters, many sisters, as I mentioned in the beginning, who are, who left marriage late, sometimes not